Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this occasions. Thank you for having me as the moderator for today. And we have the first speaker for this afternoon that would be Ms. Irina. And the titles of her paper is Teaching English in the Pandemics, Bibliometric Analysis. Oh, interesting. I never heard about it before, and it sounds challenging. But let's start. For Ms. Irina, the time is yours right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Berli, for introducing me and the title of my paper. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me in this occasion. I would like to share a little thought on teaching English in the pandemic, bibliometric analysis. My name is Arina Istiana. I am from the English Letters Department, Universitas Sanata Dharma. My presentation is divided into some parts. They are the introduction, research question, method, findings, conclusion, and limitation. Okay, in the introduction, I have some arguments. First, COVID-19 has mobilized research on a wide array of disciplines, including life sciences and humanities. Despite the domination of publications on health and technology, research on society and humanities is of the same importance since the disruption in educational, religious, and cultural activities has driven personal, social, and political attitudes. The second argument is publication platforms such as research journals provide beneficial information and knowledge that are readable and accessible. Research publishing companies such as Springer even explicitly offers research community to improve publication process, innovate across scientific communication, and develop open research. The publications also accelerate and ease the research community, extract useful knowledge about research topics, authors, and organization. And the third argument is that publication databases help us map the research trends and provide bibliographic database for knowledge management. So the analysis on research publication will provide us resources for creating not only competitive advantage, but also systematic coordination of research communities through reuse and innovation. And then I choose the topic of teaching English during the pandemic. We cannot avoid the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic has urged teachers and learners switch to online instruction with limited resources and preparation. And challenges also emerge from both teachers and students, such as the anxiety, pessimism, academic burnout, fear, and lack of support. And we are also aware that the teaching and learning policy in an online setting in different countries require different strategies. There are also some factors that affect the success of online learning, such as learner characteristics, course content and design, performance expectancy, social influence, and technical skills from both teachers and students. In this paper, I use what's so-called as bibliometric analysis. It is the use of published scientific literature, such as journal articles, books, conference proceeding, etc., for measuring the research activity. What is meant by research activity is that we can see the output volume or the science quality, as well as the interdisciplinarity and networking. We can also measure knowledge and how it is produced. And from the bibliometric analysis, we can find out information about journal names, the title of the paper, the authors, addresses, abstract, keywords, and references. And there are some examples of bibliographic data systems that we can access from, for example, Web of Science by Thomson Reuters, Scopus by Elsevier, and Google Scholar by Google. And bibliometric analysis examined publication in academic journals to examine publication characteristics, and we can find later on the information on the bibliography, such as keywords, author, etc. And this kind of method discloses the research contribution and collaboration patterns and a better understanding of a research trends. So the subtopic of this conference that I take is the research trend. Therefore, There are three major questions that I try to answer. The first is to find out which countries produced the most documents published in Scopus 2020 to 2022, and which organizations produced the documents in the database. And the third is what research topics were cited the most from the database. For the procedures here, I started with the identification of the data based on the keywords that I inserted in the Scopus search. So I inserted the keywords teaching, English, and pandemic. And then in the identification step, I found more than 3,000 documents, and I did not analyze them all because then I limited the search into 2020 to 2022. So more than 1,800 documents excluded. So I have the records to screen as many as 1,600 something. And then I also limited the publication under the issue of social sciences and humanities. And I found the eligible documents as many as 444 documents. And then here, the document types contain of not only journal articles, but also book review, conference review, book chapter, and proceeding paper. For the finding, I found from the 444 documents, there are 89 countries published the documents. And then I limited for minimum 5 documents published by the countries and found 31 countries that met the threshold. And those 31 countries belonged to 11 clusters that have co-occurrences in the document cited. So this table here show the summary of the countries publishing documents in Scopus database. The first cluster here contain of some countries. They are China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia that published 182 documents, and those documents were cited as many as 345 documents. And then the second cluster, we have Brazil, Germany, Iran, etc. that published 55 documents, cited as many as more than 90 documents. And the first viewer here shows the visualization of how the countries are connected each other in the publication. So in the visualization, in different colors shows different cluster, showing the bibliographic coupling between publication and researcher. For example, if you pay attention to the red line, we will have Indonesia, China, Malaysia, India, Philippines, and Taiwan that publish documents in the same publisher or the same journal. While the researchers from the US, Thailand, and Hong Kong publish documents in different journals seen from different clusters because they have different color. Since there are also links among countries, it means that the knowledge and publication on teaching English in the pandemic seems equal in terms of regions or countries. From the visualization, we also learned that the stronger the connection, the bigger letter of the country's names are on the visualization. Therefore, the connection between Indonesia and China is stronger than Indonesia and Philippines. What does it tell us? It tells us that the authors from Indonesia and China chose the same journals and chose the same keywords in the publication of teaching English in the pandemic. And then I also go further to find out which organization published documents in Scopus. I found 802 organizations, and I limited the documents that were published as many as at least 2 documents, and I found 22 organizations. The visualization reveals that those organizations are not connected by the links. It means that authors from those organizations neither produced documents in the same journals, nor selected the same keywords or the topics. So different from the countries, when we observe the organizations, they did not collaborate in the same document or publication. And here is the summary of the organization. And there are still found 18 clusters of the organization that were interested in similar topic. So in the table here, we can see that University of Kebangsaan Malaysia Here, publish the documents cited the most. Even though they only published 2 articles, the citation number is the highest among the other. It means that we can say that the research published by University Kebangsaan Malaysia received the most attention by research community involving replicating the method applied in the research. And then the last aim of my paper is to find out the topics or research trends. From the 444 documents, I found more than 2,000 keywords, and then I limit the search into at least 10 keywords that appear in the documents, and I found 42 keywords that are connected one another. And here is the visualization of the occurrences of the keywords. Those 42 keywords are coupled in different documents shown by the links. The blue link, for example, this one, shows that the keywords of teaching learning strategies and improving classroom teaching co-occur as keywords mentioned in similar documents. Thus, if we would like to discuss paper on pedagogical method, I group them into pedagogical method. Those keywords are important and currently discussed in the academic platform. Therefore, the implication is that we can collaborate and contribute to enrich the topic under the cluster. However, the visualization also shows a research gap on the topic of well-being and mental health, for example, shown by the brown and the green line link. It means that the further the keyword from the center indicates that the topic is still under examined. So the use of visualization in the bibliometric analysis also help us to fill the research gap. So if you are still interested in the teaching English in pandemic as one of your topics in writing, there are still gap that you can fill in terms of well-being, mental health, and then anxiety, right? And then online teaching, primary school, resilience, etc. So the further the keywords from the center indicate that these topics or these keywords are still under study. So here is the summary of the clusters. I grouped them into 3 major research trends. They are the COVID effects on education, pedagogical method, and pedagogical best practice. So in my paper, I can say that research on teaching English in the pandemic has motivated researchers from developing countries, proven by the number of documents and citation. And the research trends on pedagogical method and best practice in an online setting dominated the publication in Scopus database 2020 to 2022. Since my paper limited the data from Scopus database, further research is invited to compare the present research to different publications, such as by Web of Science and Google Scholar. Okay, I think I have finished what I have to present. Thank you very much. And later on, we will discuss in the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Irina, for your presentations. And we can move to the next questions. That will be me. And we're waiting for the Bu Amelia. Are you here? Okay. Yeah, now, Kak.
Okay. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation by Miss Arina. And now let us move to the next presentation, which will be delivered by Miss Arina and moderated by Mr. I'm sorry. The presentation by Mr. Berli and will be moderated by Miss Arina, because it seems like Miss Amelia will not coming into this room.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Tata.
Time is yours.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will continue to the second presentation, and later on we will continue to the discussion after the second presentation is finished. We will have Pak Berli from Nahdlatul Ulama University Yogyakarta. And Pak Berli, you have 15 minutes for the presentation. After that, we will continue to the discussion. The screen is yours.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just a moment. I just need to set the screens for this one. Okay, maybe just only 1 minute. All right. Thank you so much. In this occasion, I would like to present the paper under the title of Comparative Curriculums, English Curricula of Secondary Education in Indonesia and Estonia. Actually, the main issue that why I would like to compare both curriculum is because both of them have similarities in terms of the status of the English educations in both countries. In Estonia and Indonesia, they would consider that English education is as foreign language educations, not second language educations, due to many kind of aspect, especially for the linguistics perspective. Like in Estonia, they have two main languages that are Russian and Estonians. And while in Indonesia, we have a lot of local languages that we cannot count how many of them, but that's the main reasons why I would like to come to the context to know more about why they could have different results in terms of language outcome. Meanwhile, they have this similar context. For these occasions, I'll try to use the research method, the qualitative content analysis promoted by Cliff Pendorf. In this research, I try to compare two different documents related to their curriculums. It can be their printed documents or electronic documents, constitutions, just to compare whether they have similarities and differences. Yeah, to know more how they could be different in terms of the result and the outcomes of their learning process. Okay, there are 6 items that I try to compare. The first one is the stakeholders of the English curricula, the reaction of the stakeholders, and the stated purpose of the curriculum, and then philosophies and stated purposes, and the last one is forceful influences. Okay, we can start from the stakeholders and their reactions. In developing curriculums, we have some actors. They are included and excluded. Both countries involve Ministry of Education, teachers, and some practitioners to develop their curriculums. The difference is, in Estonia, they involve the students to determine what kind of learning process that could be done inside the classrooms, what kind of materials they should they have in a classroom. While in Indonesia, it's quite hard to find the students have the rights to be involved during the constructing of the curriculums. Meanwhile, they are really affected by the curriculum itself. Meanwhile, in terms of the excluded groups, we don't have family and religious groups in this context, and most countries seem to avoid that. The main reasons could be both of them are not interested in developing English curriculums in their respective countries. In terms of stated purposes, both countries, both countries share similar aims, learning objective and outcomes. Okay. The aims of these curriculums for the secondary school level, that both of them try to achieve the same level of English users, which is B level, B1 level, as independent users, in which the student are expected to talk in, they can communicate using English for daily purposes with some common topics like schools, hobbies, jobs, families, vacations, or something like that. While regarding the learning objective, um, both of them try to encourage the students to reach the language proficiency that could enable them to communicate for daily purposes. However, in Indonesia, um, we can find a gap. Uh, we can find the gap. We can find the gap uh, in terms of cultural settings, in which in Indonesia we have some tensions between uh, the cultures, whether we should teach the culture of English countries. I mean, English-speaking countries like United States, Australia, or UK, or another countries like Singapore, for example, because we have we have a commitment to make a good relationship with them as well. So the understanding of culture is important, but at the same time, we have tried to push our children to preserve our culture. That's the tensions that is happening in Indonesian curriculum. In terms of outcome, both countries try to improve uh, their students. Yeah, still the same, like communicative situation. Sorry, communicative skills in terms of daily communication or daily situation in their school. Uh, okay, that's for the stated purposes. And move to the next part, that is educational philosophies. Both of them, of course, because this related to their philosophy or the ideology of the country, both of them have a completely um, different uh, different foundations of the philosophies in their curriculum. For examples, in Indonesia, we have chosen Pancasila as the principles of educations. Meanwhile, in Estonia, they have the constitution of the Republic of Estonia, which is uh, taken, which is composed in 1992. In this in that constitutions, the function of English language teaching is to improve the understanding of the students about their rights, freedom, and duties based on the national rules and their cultural traditions. Okay. Uh, Implicit and cultural norms are really important in designing the curriculum. Both of them are quite different because in Indonesia, we tend to have um, religious and traditional values that could be the main foundations when we should construct the curriculums besides the target language that the student should learn. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, in Estonia, the things that they need to do, how the people can coexist each other. So some topics tend to be related to human rights, freedom, respect and commitments. For example, one of the topic they can write in their curriculums, like, in their books, it could be like me and others. Oh, okay. Unstated purpose. In these occasions, I just would like to explain to you how these curriculums can have positive and negative implications. For the negative implications, in Indonesia, we are not really inclusive. That's the reason why some students, especially from disadvantaged students, it can be disadvantaged in terms of economy, and the second one is disadvantage in terms of disability, physical disability. Uh, Most schools are not maybe equipped or facilitated to support the student with this ability uh, to get the same access or the equal access to learn English educations. Meanwhile, in terms of economy, we can see that now in Indonesia, the government tried to make English is not as compulsory subjects. Meanwhile, a long time ago, they decreased the number of the learning hours, which could impact the quality of the students' learning. What is the consequences of such kind of policy? The students, if they want to improve their English skills, they need to learn outside of the schools by joining some courses, and it creates a social gap between students with good financial support and the students with yeah, low financial support in order to access English educations. Meanwhile, in Estonia, they try to promote the inclusions in order to make all the students learn as well as possible. But the main challenge they have is they have a lot of migrant students which could not understand Estonians and uh, Russian language, which become the main language for education's no, instructionals media for communications in their educations. But they try their best to do that. However, the outcome is not really significant. Some students can still find some difficulties in order to access the English educations due to the cultural and linguistic backgrounds. Okay, in terms of forceful influence, power. Okay, power and governments have the significant influence in terms of constructing English curriculums in both countries. Maybe the difference is they have like conflicting conditions, and not conflicting condition, opposite conditions. In Indonesia, we are maybe equipped with details of guidance, what kind of strategy that teachers should do in their classroom activity. And while in Estonia, they just have like a general guidelines what they need to do. But they are required to be independent in designing and constructing the curriculums and the lesson plans by themselves. So meanwhile, in Indonesia, some teachers tend to be resisting with those conditions. They try to get a little bit flexibility in teaching English in their classrooms due to many kind of like limitations, especially for those teachers teaching in remote areas. Meanwhile, in Estonia, they are requiring their governments to provide detailed guidelines, so they don't spend much time to do it themselves. In terms of ideology, I have mentioned both of them in the first beginnings. The things that could be significantly different is uh, the the ideology really their ideology really significantly influenced by uh, the majority of their society. For example, in Indonesia, most of the people are religious, and they tend to take the religious values, spirituality inside the teaching process. For example, we can see that every time we start our learning process in the classrooms, we try to invite our students to pray together first before the class room activity start. Meanwhile, in Estonia, they prefer liberal values that maybe because of their referendum party, because of the reform they have, and liberal ideology like freedoms of choice, equal opportunity, competitiveness are clearly presented inside the curriculums. That's what we can see in their documents. The next one is economics. In Indonesia, we see that the trends that many companies try to uh, invite new employees to join them with English proficiency as the added value beside the hard skills they should have. But the what happened is a bit contrast in which in Indonesian curriculums we cannot accommodate that due to the limited learning hours in the schools, and yeah, besides many kind of limitation that we have in various schools across Indonesia. Um, in Estonia, even though they don't have any problem with the uh, with with the learning hours, the government tried to facilitate and make English become familiar as the economic instruments. For example, many people from different countries can make their own business and without learning Estonian and Russian if they want to build their business. Even if they want to make some bank accounts like tax filing systems or a tax file number, they can do it as English as the medium of instructions in the business level. The things that we can learn from this observation of these findings. The Okay, the things that we can learn from this finding is first, learning hours are really important in order to increase the opportunity of the students to learn and to develop their English skills. But beside that, pedagogy is equally important, in which teacher need to be independent at the same time to develop their own learning strategies. And then the last one is assessments. In their both Indonesian and no, Estonia and Indonesia have quite different way of assessments, especially for their national exams. Even though in these occasions, Indonesia has tried to abolish the systems to determines whether the students can graduate or not from their schools if they from the national exam. But what happened in Estonia, the students should fulfill the minimum requirements in order to be to graduate from the school. And they make the assessments from for skills. So the students should have 4 different type of questions in order to pass the English subjects in their schools. Okay, that's all the presentation that I can present. Thank you so much for this occasions. And now back to Mbak Arina. Thank you. Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Mbak Tata, will it be directly the question and answer session for us?
Yes, yes, Miss.
Okay, so who will lead? Because there are only two of us. If there are questions
Okay.
for one of us, it will be confusing. How about you?
I will
Leading,
lead
yeah.
the Q&A session. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much for all the insightful presentations, Mr. Berli and Miss Arina. Now we are entering the Q&A session for all the presenters. Please mention your name, affiliation, to whom the question is addressed, and what the question is. Or you might write your question and to whom the question is addressed in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, Miss Francisca, may I open your mic.
Yes, thank you, Mbak Tata. Good afternoon. I'm Siska from Sanata Dharma University also. And since I take more interest in writing research in the past year, I found that this question is for Miss Arina, by the way. As my interest gained, I found that finding the research gap is the most crucial things to be done in conducting research, just to make sure that our research is contributive. And I found the research that you did, the bibliometric study, is very interesting because it provides us with lots of information of the trends and the gaps. And I actually find your display to be very nice, convenient in terms of the networking display. And I see that you use the Corpus Assisted Discourse Studies. I would like to know, is there a particular software that you use for your data mining and the networks display in your bibliometric study, Miss?
Okay, can I answer it directly, Mbak Tata? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ka, for the question. This is something that I missed in my presentation. So firstly, in the identification, we should go to our account in Scopus, but we have to make sure that our account is the premium one, not the free one, because if we access it with our free account, we cannot download the bibliographic data from Scopus. It is different from when we download it in Google Scholar or TOAG, which is everything free. Okay, and then after we download the data, the bibliographic data in RIS format or in CSV format, we have to insert the bibliographic data into a software. The software is called as FOSViewer. FOSViewer is the software that is free, downloadable, developed by Leiden University. Later on, I will share the link so that everybody can download it. So after you insert the the bibliographic data in FOSViewer, later on you can choose whether you want to send the link in terms of co-occurrences. If you choose the co-occurrences, you will find out the relation between keywords. But when you choose the co-authorship, you will see the relation between authors, organizations, and countries. And usually when we want to show our research gap to emphasize the novelty of our research, we start from the keywords, right? So we select the co-occurrences, and then we will see how the keywords are linked together, which keywords are recently discussed in academic platform, because it is important for us to also increase the readability of our paper. If we are precise to select particular keywords, hopefully our rate of papers readability and acceptance and depth of analysis can be improved. Of course, it is not the only one, but usually in the journal publication, the reviewers will emphasize on what research novelty you offer in your paper. And I guess this is one of the ways. Usually in some international publications, we can see that the use of fast viewer is quite common. So we try to, we try to offer that this research is still under examined. There are still gaps that we need to fulfill. So it is okay to use fast viewer. Later on, I will share the link so everybody can later on use it. Thank you, Mrs. Ka. Hopefully it answers your question.
Oh, thank you, Miss.
Yeah. I already shared the link in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Arina. Or maybe if the, okay.
Can I ask some questions?
Yes, Mr. Berli.
All right. Actually, I have two main questions. The first one is, after having this research, what is the most significant findings of your research? I mean, I know that most of them are really important, but you can rate between from number 1 to number 10. So which one is the most significant? That could be aha moment for you.
After finishing the analysis, right?
Yes.
Okay. So something that I found is that first, it is the developing countries that try to research more than the developed countries. So the countries like India, Indonesia, Taiwan, they try to look for the best pedagogical best practice and method, how to cope with the online setting, how the limitation of, for example, infrastructures and then skills from both teachers and students are massive during the pandemic. It is different from what happened in, for example, the US, the UK, and Germany. Their publications are not as many as what we have. Even Indonesia is higher in publication than them. It means that how we as researchers, lecturers, teachers try to look for the best strategy to make sure that our students do not lose many things during the pandemic. It is also our struggle how to improve the professional development, because professional development is one of the keywords that appear in the data that I observe. That are also some emotions, feelings that emerge during the pandemic. There is also a paper that discussed about the emotions and feelings that are not only faced by the students, but teachers are also anxious. They are also afraid of afraid of their ability, whether they can go on with the online setting with the limited infrastructures or not. So that is something that I learned the most. So publication is not always in line and congruent with the developed countries. Even we in the developing countries are working harder than them, because we try to look for what is the best for our students.
Okay. Oh, that's really insightful. Maybe this is the last questions. I just wonder, is there any surprising findings that you didn't expect before?
Findings, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, finding you didn't expect, you didn't predict it could happen.
About the emotions or feelings, but so what I thought before is only about the strategies such as blended learning or flipped learning or distant learning, but what I found very was that a bit shocking for me is about the emotions. Emotion not only from the side of the students but the teachers and also pre-service teachers. Pre-service teachers also face the anxiety to prepare the classroom.
Thank you so much. Well,
You're welcome, Pak. And if I may, I will ask you a question.
okay, yes, please.
Okay, all right, because there are only two of us, yeah. Okay, Pak Berli, I would like to know what can you learn from the Estonian curriculum? Is it a possibility that the good side of Estonian curriculum can be applied in Indonesia or at least in your university? Because you come from what's that? A university here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the things that I can learn is pedagogy and assessment are equally important. We try to, yeah, most not the common things that we try to prioritize the curriculums in terms of pedagogy without considering too much about how the assessment could work and how it can be part of the learning process. That's the things that I guess the most important things that we need to know because they try to push their students to do writings by writings, not by multiple choice, or to do speakings by speakings, not only creates like making notes and then they can speak after that. That's why they can learn. Maybe that's the things that we can see from Estonian curriculums. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Maybe the other question, what motivates you to compare Indonesian as the Estonian curriculum? Because they come from, what's that, different continents, right? Different characteristic, but what makes you interested in comparing these two?
Okay, but this is just personal reasons. Actually, it was my work for my when I was at first no when I was at master degree, and at that times I got assignments to compare to different curriculums. I choose Estonian because they are really good in terms of educations beside Finland's. If I'm not mistaken, they belong to top 10 countries with a good educations. Meanwhile, the status between Indonesia and Estonia in terms of English education is quite similar. For example, Indonesia in terms of geographical situations, we have some countries we have some speaking English we have some English speaking countries like Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, um, and they have the same like they are really close to UK, some maybe in terms of cultures they could be like Finland, but the status are quite similar. The things is why the result of their study could be significantly different. That's I just would like to know more by comparing whether actually it's supposed to be based on the best practice they have in their schools that we can learn because it's quite hard to observe. So I just start from the documents.
Thank you very much, Pak Berlin. That's very interesting. Thank you for your sharing.
Thank you. Thank you, Bu.
Okay, Mr. Berli and Miss Arina, maybe you want to share more about your topic. Maybe you can share more.
Maybe a little thought about how to find out the research gap and novelty. Yeah. So one of the ways is by Fosviewer, and the other way is by Publish and Perish. If you are familiar with that, you should also download the software Publish and Perish. By using the software Publish and Perish, you can download even thousands of information of the bibliography from Google Scholar, from Web of Science, Crossref, and DOAG. And I think this kind of habit is not yet found a lot in our country. And therefore, we need to improve our publication quality. And one of them is by having a dialogue between research that has published before. I selected Scopus not because I am a Scopus oriented person, no, yeah, but because this is the platform that provide thousands of journals, more than Web of Science. Therefore, I took it as the sample. Therefore, in my limitation, I invite more scholars to compare the data from the other database. But what we have to remember when we use Fosviewer and we download the bibliographic information is by remembering and noting the date when we download the information. When I firstly downloaded the data on August 30th, I found 3,000, more than 3,000. But when I tried yesterday, I already found 10,000 more documents under the same topic, because publication is increasing daily. So we have to we have to note that different period of downloading will result in different different research strands. Therefore, I suggest researchers, lecturers later on to include this kind of habit to to find out how the knowledge is distributed, how knowledge is distributed in the international discussion. That is just my last thought, Mbak Tata. Thank you. Maybe Pak Berli has something.
Okay. What I can say? Well, I think comparing to different curriculums can be something important in order to know different perspective, how it is constructed within a certain context and conditions. For example, in Indonesia, we have diverse cultures, and it can create tensions. What kind of content that could be inserted? If some books try to provide cultural contents with Japanese centrics, which could not be implemented in some part of Indonesia, and it can be some considerations. Yeah, if we maybe sometimes in the future could be a part of the curriculum developer, and we can at least need to be aware of such kind of things. Besides, we need to know who are involved in constructing curriculums, the interests of each parties and stakeholders, because if we cannot accommodate them, it tends to be useless when we try to implement it in the real in the real classroom activities. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Berli and Miss Arina. I believe that all of the participants got a lot of more new knowledge, and we learned something new from your presentations. It is a wonderful presentations, and thank you very much for your presentation, Miss Arina and Mr. Berli. And now we have finished our parallel session. After this, please kindly leave this breakout room and return to the main room for the plenary session. Thank you very much for the fruitful discussion and have a great day.
Thank you, Mbak Tata
Okay,
and
thank
Pak
you,
Berli.
Mbak Tata. Thank you, Bu
Siska and the
Irina.
other.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.